He goes 31 of 35 for 482 yards. And again, all I said was, hey, I'd take him at the bottom of the first round, and if you're willing to run the Urban Meyer college offense, he can win games. No Pro Bowls, but he can win games at the NFL level. And he got a shot finally by default when Kyle Orton went 1-4 to start off that 2011 season in Denver. And all he did was carry your team to the AFC West Championship and beat Ben Roethlisberger and obviously Mike Tomlin in a playoff game at Mile High. But the point was, and what made me laugh out loud last night, Shannon, was it was pretty clear that your man John Elway and then Coach John Fox in Denver, they were rooting against Tim Tebow from the start. So they didn't want anything to do with him either. They threw him into the fire in the fifth game, it will be the sixth game of the season at Miami, just to get it over with, get the Tebow experiment over with so that all the Tebow fans would have to say, well, okay, he can't play, you're right. And they won in overtime. And then you know the rest of the story. He goes 7-4, they win the division. So the point is, he's so polarizing that I'm sure there are people in the organization who not only are not thrilled right now, but they'll be rooting against Tim Tebow to try to get rid of him, get it over with, get him out of our hair. Because if Tim Tebow is in camp with Jacksonville, let alone Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer, but if Tim Tebow is there, will that not be the new center of the NFL universe? Will that team not be covered in ways that maybe even Brady's Tampa team will not be covered in the preseason?
Hey, Skip, if you think about it, the only reason we're talking about Jacksonville now is because of Tim Tebow.
That
so
is
I
correct.
guess, as Jerry Jones would say, any press is good press, Skip. Skip, but I would say this. He is the most polarizing, marginal athlete that we've seen in modern time. And I don't know if you go back 35, 40, 50, 60 years ago, Skip, I don't know if we've ever... Normally, polarization comes from... LeBron James is polarizing, but LeBron James is a historically great athlete. There have been other guys. Floyd Mayweather is polarizing. Conor McGregor, but they're great. Tim Tebow is polarizing, but he's a marginal athlete, Skip. And if you go back... You go back farther than this and I have. I mean, hell, you've been covering this thing damn near as long as I've been alive, Skip. You know so many, and I don't want to make this a race issue because it's really not. I don't believe this is really a race issue, and we can debate that another day in time. But you know so many other black quarterbacks was forced to change positions. They had to move to wide receiver or running back or DB in order to play. Tony Dungy said that he was a quarterback in Minnesota. He and Warren Moon played at the same time as Warren Moon. And he said no one was going to give him an opportunity to play in the NFL. So he had to switch to DB. But what's at work here, Skip? Let's be all the way 100. Let's remove the cloak. Let's remove the veil. Tim Tebow is a straight, white, evangelical male. There are benefits that come along with being that. Let's not poo-poo that issue. Let's try to say, like, oh, no, that has nothing to do with it. Bull jive. And everybody that's out there that's listening to my voice understands that. There are privileges that come along with that. And Urban Meyer did not have to do this. Urban Meyer, he got Trevor Lawrence. It was the start of something. This is Urban flexing that I'm in total control here, and I'll do what the hell I want, when the hell I want to do it. This makes no sense to me. And I'm going to tell you, the guys in the locker room is going to be looking at Tim Tebow saying, bruh, you're a great person. You're a great man, but you didn't deserve this opportunity. Your ability, nothing you've done warrants you being in this situation. After being away from the game for 9 years, for 6 years, not taking a snap in 9 years, and all of a sudden you get an opportunity to come back at a different position, and our coaching staff, some on the coaching staff, are opening you with open arms. That would have never happened if I didn't list those 4 things that Tim Tebow possessed. So for me, Skip, I don't understand why Urban did it, because he didn't have to do it, because Urban has enough credibility. Trevor Lawrence coming in, and I get Jacksonville has been a downtrodden organization. And Shad Khan, Mr. Khan has turned everything over. He's like, look, this is not my expertise. This is your expertise, Urban, and I'm going to let you have total control. But, Skip, this makes no sense, and I'm not surprised that he's getting pushback in his own building from a lot of his coaches because it makes no sense to them either.
Okay, what makes no sense to me is that you can dismiss Tim Tebow as a marginal athlete when you have already proclaimed him an all-time top 5 college football player who obviously won a Heisman. And Tebow was forced to go try baseball, and he hadn't played it in 11 years. And at the AA level, which is the toughest level of minor league baseball, loaded with the most prospects, major league bound, he made the all-star team. You cannot dismiss him as marginal when he's able to do 2 sports at that high of a level.
No, he didn't do it. Actually, he did not do it, Skip Bayless. No, if you want to say great athlete, Deion did it at high levels. Bo Jackson did it at high level. Brian Jordan did it at high levels. Tim Tebow did not do it. And that's the arrogance of Tim Tebow, to think because he failed at football, he could go pick up a baseball bat after over a decade and do that. It's even more arrogant on him and Urban Meyer part to think he can be away from the game for 6 years. This is what, Skip, why didn't he try any other team? Why didn't he call anybody else? Because they'd have laughed at him first and then hung the phone up. He went to the very place, the one person that would have given him this opportunity. You know that, Skip.
I don't know that. I think outside the box more than you do. And here's the irony of this discussion. While most people sort of take Tim Tebow over and make him part of the far right, or however you want to say it, the evangelical right. When it comes to the football context, you have to be left to love Tim Tebow. You have to be a liberal thinker to step back and quit thinking meat and potatoes and accept what he can do as opposed to fixating on what he cannot do. The point was that in all those games he started that year in 2011 for the Broncos, in the last 5 minutes of those games, he led the National Football League in my favorite stat, QBR. #1 in the league, because as our man Eric Mangini said in 2011, while on my show on ESPN, he said there's something about Tebow in the last 5 minutes of games, he gets deadly accurate. He does. He gets deadly clutch. He wills the ball to the right guy at the right time in exactly the right spot. And he did it again and again and again. He was not a consistent passer, as you have repeatedly pointed out, but you fixate on the negative. There's no way you can lead the Denver Broncos to a division championship from 1-4 in the hole, dead in the water at 1-4 as a marginal athlete. He is a sensational competitor, and we're going to talk more about this later, but Urban Meyer did talk to Chris Collinsworth yesterday about what he sees now in Tim Tebow, and he was telling his assistant coaches who worked out Tim Tebow, and we'll get deeper into this later, but he said, guys, you don't understand. This guy is the most competitive maniac you're ever going to talk to. That's why Urban said, let's give this a shot, because Urban knows what can happen if you put Tim Tebow in a football game with the game on the line, the biggest plays of the game, the scoring plays, the 3rd and 2 at the 20, or maybe the 4th and goal at the 1. Tim Tebow will make that play. Don't dismiss what he can do, because I've never seen anything like what Tim Tebow can do on a football field if you give him the opportunity. Only one team was forced to give him the opportunity, and it was your team in 2011. And all he did was win. All he did was win a playoff game. You can't dismiss him when he threw for 316 yards and beat Pittsburgh in a playoff game. And if we could just please quickly see the pass that he threw to win the game in overtime to Demaryius Thomas, it's one of the great throws in the history of the National Football League under the circumstances. He never started before, and look at this. He throws a dart to Demaryius, and he's off to the races in overtime. They win the game 29-23, and it shocked the NFL world. He did it. He was the epicenter of the NFL universe at that moment, because he's not a marginal athlete. He's an all-time great playmaker in big moments of big games. You saw it all through his college career, and you saw it for 1 year in Denver. And yet he was such a distraction because he creates and detonates such media backlash that once Peyton knocked on the door in Denver, Elway was like, thank you, God. I've got my answer. I can get rid of Tim Tebow. And the rest of the league rejected Tim Tebow after that. in largest part, because he was such a media distraction.
Okay. But hold on. But Skip, here's the thing. I can explain the QBR in the last 5 minutes of the game. He and Dak Prescott, empty calories. They're playing prevent defense. You see, if you notice, Dak Prescott in the beginning of the game, the numbers are not the same as when they get behind by 20, when they're down by 24. Well, Tim Tebow accuracy goes when teams start playing prevent defense because they said, okay, let's not give anything cheap and deep. But in the first 55 minutes of the ball game,